By now, fresh revelations connecting Donald Trump to Jeffrey Epstein should surprise no one. Their friendship, spanning over a decade, continues to generate shocking new evidence. Photographs surface. Videos emerge. Emails leak. And yet, each disclosure manages to stun the public once again. This morning brings another bombshell. Newly leaked correspondence between Epstein and Trump's inner circle. These emails reveal deeply disturbing connections, particularly regarding Epstein's criminal activities involving minors. Congressman Robert Garcia, serving as the ranking member on the House Oversight Committee, has been the driving force behind these disclosures. Despite aggressive obstruction from Republican colleagues, Garcia has fought relentlessly to bring this evidence to light.
Video that we have is because we have fought for them on the Oversight Committee as Democrats. And Republicans, every single step of the way, have tried to block the release. They try to stop our vote on the subpoena. Donald Trump brought in members of Congress to the Situation Room, tried to stop the vote from happening on the floor. And so Republicans, Mike Johnson, James Comer, at every single turn, have dragged their feet and participated in this White House cover-up. Of what we currently have, we have one batch of documents from the DOJ. All of those documents were essentially already public records. So that was already given to the public. So there's nothing new there. Of the other documents that we have, much of what we have either is already in the public record, Democrats have already put out as a committee, and we still have not put out yet fully are the bank records. And I'll tell you why. We're working right now with our partners on the Senate Finance Committee, in both the Senate and the Financial Services Committee in the U.S. House. And we are carefully going through a complex system of documents, ledgers, bank statements that connect money laundering, we believe, possibly, and also information about who was paying who and where Jeffrey Epstein was receiving all of his resources from. And I'll note this one other thing, which is important. The Republicans only decided to subpoena two of the banks, Deutsche Bank and JP Morgan. We've asked for over 20 banks to be subpoenaed. So we need Republicans to join us and subpoena the 20 other banks where we want to get information from. All of that is going to be critically important in the weeks and months ahead. But I'll tell you, Chris, we're making really, really good progress.
So if there are images here, I mean, one thing that's striking to me is something that Andrew Weissman said earlier in the program. And this just pertains to, say, the birthday book, right, which in some ways I think kicked off a lot of this. The Wall Street Journal is reporting about that. Am I right that nothing from the estate has ever come into the custody of law enforcement? That everything being turned over by the estate, including the photos you got, like this is the first time U.S. government representatives or anyone has gotten this information? Is that true?
We're actually not sure what representatives of the government or the DOJ may have that the estate also has. There's certainly a lot the estate has that, according to some of the DOJ, they do not have. Look, the birthday book, Donald Trump spent weeks saying it didn't exist, as we remember. There have been comments from members of the DOJ and members of the administration that they weren't aware, obviously, of some of what the estate has. And so that is likely true, that there are documents and photos that we're releasing to the public, including possibly ones that we released today, that are not in the possession of the DOJ. But I also want to be very clear that what we've released and what we have is a tiny amount of production compared to what the DOJ has. From what we understand from talking to folks at the FBI as well as the DOJ, there's an enormous amount of documents, of records, of photos, of videos, and other materials in the possession of the Department of Justice.
Garcia's testimony reveals something deeply troubling: a coordinated effort to suppress the truth. According to him, every document, photograph, and video currently available exists only because Democrats fought for their release, while Republicans blocked progress at every turn. Trump himself reportedly intervened, summoning members of Congress to pressure them against voting to release these materials. House Speaker Mike Johnson and Chairman James Comer have been accused of participating in what Garcia calls an active White House cover-up. What's already been released represents just a fraction of what exists. The critical evidence still hidden? bank records. Democrats are working with Senate committees to trace complex financial transactions, examining who was paying whom and where Epstein's enormous wealth originated. Here's the problem. Republicans subpoenaed only 2 banks. Democrats requested subpoenas for more than 20 additional institutions. Without cooperation, that evidence remains locked away. Garcia emphasizes that publicly released materials are tiny compared to what the Department of Justice holds. FBI officials have confirmed an enormous cache exists. Thousands of documents, photographs, videos, and other evidence still under seal. But despite Attorney General Pam Bondi's obstruction efforts, she cannot stop Garcia from pursuing evidence through Epstein's estate. Subpoenas continue daily. Associates and potential co-conspirators are being identified and compelled to testify. Now let's discuss the emails that sparked today's headlines. This latest batch was obtained by Distributed Denial of Secrets, a nonprofit whistleblower organization. The content is absolutely staggering. An email account belonging to Jeffrey Epstein regularly received campaign messages from Donald Trump's 2020 re-election operation. Even after Epstein's death in August 2019, someone continued accessing this account. The account was registered under a shocking nickname, pedos. Let that sink in. Trump's campaign was sending emails to an address labeled pedos. I need you right now, pedos, reads an October 27, 2020 email bearing Trump's digital signature. Pedos, I want you to know how important you are to me, states another from October 1st, 2020. I'm turning to my strongest supporters like pedos, declares an October 25th message. Pedos, I am so proud to be your president, reads another from September 14th, 2020, over a year after Epstein died in federal custody. You don't register your email with such a term unless it reflects your identity. And unless you're disturbingly comfortable with that fact. This was the individual Donald Trump maintained close ties with for over a decade. The email evidence aligns perfectly with what we already knew. Trump was the most frequently mentioned person in previous document releases. Epstein scheduled flights around Trump's availability. He called Trump his closest friend for 10 years. Flight logs confirmed Trump flew on Epstein's private jet at least 7 times in the 1990s. New evidence suggests Trump spent considerable time with at least one victim at his residence. There are indications he potentially spent Thanksgiving with Epstein during his first presidential term. While serving as commander-in-chief, Trump's defense is crumbling. He claims Palm Beach was a small social scene where everyone took photos together. But Epstein literally used pedos as his email identifier. He wasn't hiding who he was. According to Trump's own statements, their falling out wasn't about morality. It was a business dispute over an employee. That ended the friendship, not the systematic abuse of children. Yesterday's release included photographs of Trump with several women whose faces were completely redacted, strongly suggesting these were Epstein's victims entitled to privacy protections. Ghislaine Maxwell has consistently denied Trump interacted with victims. Yet here are photographs contradicting her claims. Maxwell now resides in surprisingly comfortable prison conditions, raising questions about preferential treatment in exchange for silence.
Of Inspector General than I do in the top leadership of the Justice Department. There have been reports that the FBI devoted 1,000 agents to combing through these files, flagging wherever Trump's name appeared, and there's good reason to be suspicious of whether any documents that might be incriminating the president will see the public light. So one way of trying to make sure that the disclosures are fulsome, as required by the law that was passed on a bipartisan basis, is to get the Inspector General to review the custody of these documents to determine whether any are missing. And the administration is supposed to give us a log of anything they're withholding to determine whether that log is complete or whether the thing's missing from there, too.
Senator Schiff's concerns are absolutely justified. If the FBI assigned 1,000 agents specifically to flag Trump's name in these files, we must question whether incriminating evidence will ever see daylight. Given current Justice Department leadership, skepticism is warranted. The Inspector General may be our only safeguard. Oversight advocates are demanding an independent review and comprehensive log of what exists, what's released, and what's withheld. The law requires this transparency. But compliance remains uncertain. This scandal extends far beyond the current administration. The cover-up stretches back years. Remember Alexander Acosta? Trump's former labor secretary, who, as a federal prosecutor, negotiated Epstein's sweetheart 2008 plea deal. That agreement allowed Epstein to avoid serious charges despite overwhelming evidence. We must also examine Steve Bannon's relationship with Epstein. Text messages reveal they maintained contact close to Epstein's death. These relationships, built on mutual exploitation, seem to characterize everyone in Trump's orbit. But the most critical unresolved question remains. Epstein's death itself, July 2019. Found dead in his cell, ruled suicide. Yet Pam Bondi has been accused of manipulating prison video evidence. Reports indicate missing footage from the critical time frame. This detail surfaced briefly, then vanished from coverage. We've seen emails and photographs, but where's the video? Epstein recorded extensively. His properties had sophisticated surveillance systems. Howard Lutnick, now in Trump's administration, once called Epstein the blackmail chief. Those recordings must exist. They're presumably under DOJ control. Will we ever see them? Recent developments add urgency. Last week, federal prosecutors in New York quietly reopened inquiries into Epstein associates named in victim testimonies but never charged. Advocacy groups have filed motions demanding sealed depositions from settled civil cases. Depositions allegedly naming powerful individuals who participated in these crimes. Legal battles intensify on multiple fronts. While Bondi controls Justice Department materials, she cannot stop congressional investigations, estate releases, or journalistic inquiry. The pattern is unmistakable. Trump maintained an intimate friendship with a convicted sex offender for over a decade. He flew on Epstein's jet. He socialized with him regularly. He appeared in photographs with victims whose faces must be redacted. His campaign sent emails to an account labeled pedos. Whether Trump knew that name or not, someone in his operation was communicating with it. That demands answers. The American public deserves truth. Victims deserve justice. Those who enabled, participated in, or covered up these crimes must face accountability regardless of their current power. This story continues to unfold. As evidence emerges, as witnesses come forward, and as investigators persist despite obstruction, the full truth will surface. The only questions are, how long will it take? And will justice ultimately prevail? Stay informed. Stay vigilant. Demand accountability from those in power.